Hello everyone, Adelina here for EllenHudson.com, sharing the details and some basics about the Essentials by Ellen Bear Cozy kit. The kit comes in a cellophane wrapper with a little sticker on the front that tells you everything that's included inside. Your kit is housed in a reusable vinyl mesh zippered bag with a cute little fabric Essentials by Ellen label. Once you open up this kit, you're going to find 6 embroidery floss to match the included felt fabric, the dies needed to create the coffee cozy, along with accessories to decorate the cozy to turn it into a cute little bear. Now you'll notice when you get this that it's just slightly longer than your standard die cutting platform, so you'll need a longer platform to die cut these pieces. These are the 6 colors of felt included in your kit, and as you can see, they match the included embroidery floss perfectly. If you like sewing, this kit comes with the detached die to add holes to the end of it so that you can stitch it together. And I like to align it with the end of the die, just as it's shown here, so that it gets close to the edge. And then I overlap it about 1/4 inch, and I'll show you how I do that later in the video. But you can see here that the wool felt that's included in this kit die cuts perfectly. I didn't need to add a shim to my die cutting machine, and those holes came out great. When I received my kit, I cut my felt in half lengthwise, and you can see here how all the parts of this kit fit on half a sheet of that felt. So it really is everything you need to create 12 cozies. To stitch my cozy together by hand, I used a stitch called a back stitch, and I pulled out about 18 inches of that embroidery floss to stitch the end of that, and that was plenty. And so when I do embroidery, or when I'm using embroidery floss, I use 2 strands at a time. You can use the whole thing. It's totally personal preference. It's just kind of how I do things. And then I like to pull them out 1 strand at a time, otherwise they bunch up and get knotted. And then I just carefully insert that at the end of my needle and add a knot at the bottom of one side of that thread. And I actually like to do 3 knots just so that you just want it to be thicker than the needle you're using. So once that was done, I grabbed a straight pin and used that to secure the ends of my cozy while I stitched it together. And if you're not a sewer, the stitch that I'm using today is called a back stitch. It's a really basic stitch that if you're a beginner sewer, this is a really great one to start with. And what you're going to do is you're going to start with the bottom hole that's on your project. You're going to go into the hole that's right above it, push your needle through, and then you're going to come up, you're going to skip that space between those holes, come up, and then this is why it's called a back stitch, and then you're going to come back and stitch into that hole. And then you're just going to repeat this process. So come back up ahead of that space, leave a space between your last stitch, and then come back through. And this is a really, really nice looking stitch once you're done with your project. That's why I like it. If you're familiar with sewing with a sewing machine, it looks very similar to a straight stitch on a sewing machine. And then once I complete stitching all the way to the top, I just tie a knot, loop it through the thread that's on the inside of the cozy, and trim it down so that there's no thread hanging out. Now, if you are working with kids with this project, which I plan on doing this with my kids, this fabric fuse tape is really great. And what I did is took a couple of strips of this tape. It's a double-sided fabric adhesive, and I added it to the back side of some of the scraps of fabric that I had. And I just put a few strips because the pieces that make up the face of this cozy will fit fine on this scrap of felt that I have here. And so once I had all that done, I pulled out a few of the die pieces, and I used painter's tape to hold my pieces in place while I was die cutting them so that they wouldn't move around. Try to keep the edge of the painter's tape on the outside part of the die. It does lift up the felt a little bit, but felt is really forgiving. So if it pulls up and creates some fuzzies on your felt, just kind of rub over it with your thumb, and it'll look fine. But I really I did not want to deal with trying to teach my kids how to sew anything, especially my little boys are really young, and I thought just sticking things on like stickers is just an easier option. And so once everything is cut, you just peel off the backing from the tape of your die cut pieces and adhere them onto your pre-made cozy. And these cozies can come together any way that you'd like. In the digital content included with this kit, you'll find all sorts of ideas for the various parts. I made, in this sample, the bow into a tie. It can be a bow in the bear's hair, so it can be feminine or masculine. There are endless options for this. And I made a second pair of eyes, the same shape that's used for the eyes, and I turned them into little blushing cheeks. You know, for a long time, the Ellen Hudson team has wanted to create a product that people can experience together, something that brings people of all ages and skill sets together, and this little kit does just that. So I hope you'll pick it up and enjoy it with your next gathering of friends. It's great for a crafting party. I hope you enjoyed this video. You can find more information about the Essentials by Ellen Bear Cozy Kit at ellenhudson.com. Thanks for stopping by today. I hope you have a great day.